stage in my life, I did have no hope in my life. I was at the deep of the bottom. But that time, I felt the loving embrace of my Lord coming, telling me, here you are home. Hi, I'm Kachana. I live in Adelaide, South Australia. I moved to Adelaide in 2006. I'm a mum to Danielle, and my husband's name is Kingsley. As I said, I moved in 2006. I was born in Sri Lanka. Growing up, I had a pretty stable family life. I'm the youngest out of the 4 girls. We had more influenced, from my mum's side. She was a practicing Buddhist, and growing up, we were attending a lot of temple sessions. We had meditation, prayer meetings, as well as I attended Sunday school. As growing up as a young child, I was deep into my faith. Compared to my friends of the same age, I had a very sound knowledge of Buddhism. I wanted to learn more on scripture. I remember my parents were very involved in that. We had that opportunity. I think things started changing when I was about, coming to a teenage and early young adult. My sisters moved one by one to Australia. I was most of the time, growing up as a young child by myself. There was a period that I felt very lonely, but I felt at the same time, my parents all coming to me. It was really difficult because my family, compared to my friends and all of that, was a very strict upbringing. We didn't have any involvement much with my friends, or anything like that. I think sort of felt like the only child for a while. I think I started going against what my parents wanted me to do at the early ages of my teen years and coming into adulthood. I remember when I found my first job when I finished high school, that was the time for me to find my own freedom. Then I thought, this is the time that, I'd be able to do things on my own. So I started working, and my first job, I remember I met this gentleman, and I felt like I was getting all the attention in a different way. I sort of started rebelling against my parents and, had this relationship with him. He's from an Islamic background, which is a big taboo from my family. It was a Buddhist country. I did everything that my parents told me not to do. So I got married to this person and I moved out of home. I think I had a very distant relationship with my mum and dad. Obviously my siblings were here in Australia, so I didn't have a close relationship with them. They were against all of that too. But I think it's mainly I moved from home so that I wanted to build my own life. Things started feeling very difficult. I fell pregnant. I had my son at the age of very early 20s. I felt, I think that was the time I was needing my parents a bit more. So I started reaching out to my mum and dad. Obviously, as parents, you always, welcome your children. And I think that was sort of like an eye-opener for me, going back home, having my parents for me. And of course, they had their, a grandson to look after. It was good in my sense, but at the same time, I felt a distant relationship between me and my husband. Things were not working out. It was not the same person that I married once, and he was very different. I felt like every time he had an opportunity, he would go away from me. Like he will leave work on a Friday and go over for the weekend, and me and Danielle would be home by myself and no contact the whole time. It was a very difficult situation for me. I'm in my early 20s, living with my, not living with my parents, but I was depending more back again on my parents. I didn't want to put that burden on my parents as well, because it was none of their doing. It was all my fault. So I think my parents saw how difficult my family life, I was struggling and all of that. So they wanted to help us. So they they helped us to come to Australia. So, it was funded by my parents. We moved here in 2006 with Danielle, then almost 2 years old. It was a very happy moment for me in my life because I was finally meeting my siblings, after like 7-8 years. I get to live with my siblings, and Danielle had his cousins. So it was a really good moment for me, to be able to connect back with my extended family. At the same time, I think that was the period that things came into light for me as well. Whereas my relationship with my husband got distant every day. He was not in his heart in Australia. And I felt most of the time I was fighting two battles, trying to keep the peace at home because every difficult situation we faced, he was ready to pack up and go. And I knew deep down if we pack up and go, my life is, there's no future for Danielle as well because my family was here. When Danielle was about 7 years old, I really found out, that he had another family back home. By then he had 2 children. It was really difficult situation for me to deal with everything because that was all my family, that was, my whole life that I had planned for. So, and I was very sad for Danielle, that was all my dreams of giving him a family and a life for him, and then this happened. During this time, I lost jobs in 2 occasions. I remember I used to drop Danielle to my sister's house at 6 o'clock in the morning and then pick him up around 7 o'clock. So I really didn't have time to spend with him. Everything was about, earning money, trying to, stand up on our own feet. I lost my work in 2 occasions that time. I was made redundant, but there was no redundancy payment because, we were finally still settling in. We didn't have the visas to go through everything to do the right way. So then when I found out about my husband being unfaithful, I think that's when the time we decided that's it for us. I moved in with my sister. She helped me. I remember the little that I had, I packed up everything in a storage and I moved in with my sister, Danielle, and myself. It was really hard. This is years after we moved in Australia. I felt like I was starting all over again, this time by myself and everything. It is difficult for a migrant family to settle in here, let alone, being a single parent and going through financial difficulties as well. I didn't have any government support because I was still on, I didn't have the residency here. I think for someone to lose hope, that is the end of it. And I was in a very difficult situation in my life. I think 2016 was a better year for me with all the struggles I had. I finally started sort of picking bits up and being myself. I've had a lot of support from my family. I was able to secure a full-time job and start on my feet. And at this time, I was still, myself. We had a 2-bedroom unit, and Danielle and I moved in there, and it was really good. It was like, started to feeling a bit, we come from the bottom, start reaching towards where we wanted to go. We were still behind. But I remember at the time, after months and months later, I asked my sister, I was feeling still lonely. I was picking up things, but I always had this feeling of being lonely. I didn't have anyone in my life to, start a family and to give a family to Danielle. And I remember lying in bed, I'm thinking, God, where are you? Can you help me? I'm in the deep in the den sort of thing. It's now when I think back, it's like, crying out for help from God. And, we hear in the Psalms and the Laments. That's similar to that. And I know He heard my cries and my pleas. So time went by, months and months. And I remember I was talking to my sister at one stage, I think I'm ready to meet someone. Should I try now? What should I do? Because now I was burnt once, so I didn't want to do things the way I wanted to do things. So I wanted to get the help from my family's blessings, So I remember asking my sister, should I do this? And she's like, yeah, go for it. I think you're ready. And then obviously, being a single parent, you don't really go out to meet people. I met Kingsley on a dating website, and we met, and coincidentally, we met on Christmas Eve in 2016. remember my family really took a liking for him. They invited him over. I remember early in February, my niece's birthday, so my sister extended the invitation for Kingsley to come to my niece's birthday. So we went to that, and there was this couple that really took a liking to us, and she said, they're from a Christian background. So I was just telling Kingsley, because this is my sister's friends, I said to Kingsley, oh, they're Christian, they're like you. Little that I did not know the difference between Christian and Catholic. So he said, no, I don't think so. And I was like, no, they're all Christian. So I just kept on telling him. And then they come to us and they said, oh, we're having this service on Saturday. Why don't you guys come over? And I said, yeah, okay, we'll think about it. And however, at the end of the night, we exchanged each other's numbers. So we thought, just being out of polite, we just say yes, but, we will decide whether we can really make it. And the coming days, closer to this, and she would actually message me or call me during the day and to see how I'm going. And she really took, really got us to really commit to this. So come close to it, we didn't have any other excuses other than to go to this service. So we went to this on a Saturday evening. I think it was like an eye-opener for me. It was very different to how I was raised. It was a very charismatic service. You could see people were, sharing their stories. They were singing. They were very different to how I was raised as a Buddhist. So I felt sort of uncomfortable as well. That's not anything I was used to. And I could see Kingsley was feeling the same. And at the end of it, I remember during the service, he said to me, as soon as he finished, we will go. So, because they had already organized supper and all of that. We didn't hang around, we finished, we left. So coming on the way in the car, he said to me, very nicely, he said, sweetie, that is not a Catholic service. Why don't I take you to the real deal? So it was Saturday night, and I said, yeah, why not? So then Sunday morning, he comes and picks me up. This was 5th of March, 2017. So this is after about 3 months since we met. We went to Mass, and during Mass, everything was okay. We went, took the hymn books at the start, the prayer cards. Kingsley hasn't been going to Mass for about, a year and a bit, So he did not know either. So he was showing me at the same time. He's sort of learning things as he go to teach me what to do. I remember halfway through the Mass, I just felt something really happening inside me, and I couldn't hold on. I felt this, the whole burden that I was carrying, which I don't think anybody knew what was in my heart. I felt that it all taken care of, it just taken off me, and I felt so much at peace. And that was an overwhelming feeling of joy and happiness for me. I remember I was crying. I felt that peace within me, and I was crying. I was, crying my eyes out.
So afterwards in the car, I said to her, Kanchana, what's wrong? What did I say on the way to Mass that made you so upset? She said, Kingsley, she goes, it was not what you said. She goes, I felt something in there that I've never felt before. What's that? I asked. She said, Kingsley, I felt like I'd come home. I felt an overwhelming sense of peace and joy and happiness and acceptance that I've never felt before. I've never been to a church before, Kingsley, but at that moment, I felt God touch my heart and I'd come home. At that moment, Kanchana and I decided that we were going to orient our life towards that of the church. Things that were important to us before now no longer mattered. And things that weren't important previously now were front and center of our lives. We changed many things. We started going to Mass every Sunday. We got Kachana involved in the RCIA program. We started reading the Bible, something I hadn't done in over a decade. I learned about this thing called the Catechism of the Catholic Church, of which I never knew. We started listening to Catholic podcasts and watching Catholic documentaries. It was an incredible moment for us and an incredible and exciting time.
I think it was a really good journey, and I remember at the time we were planned to get married. I remember telling Kingsley, no, until I'm baptized, I cannot get married, because I wanted to by then I'm learning about things, I learned the sacraments. So I wanted to confirm, have my baptism and my confirmation before we got married. So throughout my journey, I got baptized on the 31st of March on the Easter Vigil in 2018. Archbishop Wilson did that, and it was a really great moment. By then, I think my life at home with how I interact with Daniel, things have changed, and he wanted to be following the same steps as me. So on the 31st of March 2018 at the Easter Vigil at St. Francis Cathedral, Daniel and I got baptized, confirmed, and we received our first Holy Communion. It was a very, very joyous moment, happiness, of what I went through, all my journey. And I felt that I'm part of everyone. And I felt receiving the communion for the first time, I'm receiving the body and blood of Christ. I'm in the whole body, I'm part of Him.
So since the moment of Kanchana's conversion, I can notice a number of differences in her. She will start noticing things we didn't notice before, and these may be people that need our help. She's always very willing and seems to have a very big heart to helping those less fortunate than herself. Another way that I've seen Kanchana change since her conversion is that she starts every day with prayer. She gets up a little bit early and by herself gets on her knees and prays to Jesus her Saviour, thanking Him for that moment of conversion, that gift of faith, which has changed her life and changed our family.
One thing I've learned is in my faith is we all sinners, we all have a past, but what we do in our future and what we give to the others is what matters from now on. I enrolled myself to help at RCIA as a sponsor on the first year. This is at the Cathedral St. Francis Xavier, where I had my conversion and my story. My whole journey was laid on this church. And I remember joining there as a sponsor the following year in 2019. And I was supporting through the same candidates who were going through the same journey as was me. I once did. And since last year, I've actually joined as a proper leader and to help out in bring new Catholics into the faith and share the journey. And I think it's very important, coming new to the faith as an adult. I think through Christ is where you can find peace. There's everything in this world, that you think that matters, but that gives you happiness. But when it comes to when you have that inner peace, that is something that nobody can take away from you. Everything will come and go, but what you have and what the relationship you have with Christ is what matters. He changed my whole life. He changed how I see things. He changed how I react to things. He changed how I see things in different people. Like, I was once quick to judge on people from what they see. But now I simplify myself and think, what would Christ think? What would Jesus in this scenario, how would He think? Because He thought that way, only He saw me, and how can I be different to somebody else? That thought always in my heart, in my mind, whenever I walk or I do something, I always have that thought. And even people do mistakes, I always think, the Father above forgives us. His endless mercy is always there for us. Why cannot we forgive somebody who actually done something wrong, These were very difficult situations, sort of understand. I think through His grace and through His mercy, you will be able to encounter these. If you receive His grace, then you will see, because you want that relationship with Him. I know even now, when I fear or when I have problems or when I have struggles, challenges, we all do. I'm not perfect. I know there's one person I can call and that I can count on Him. In life, there are things that you worry and that is in your hand that you can control, and there are things that you can't control. When I have situations like that, that's when I need, I leave the worries that I can't control at the foot of the cross. I talk to Jesus as I talk to a friend every day. In my thoughts, I start my day greeting Him. I end my day greeting, saying goodnight to Him. Those are the simple things I've actually adopted doing in my life on a daily basis. I think that really helps anyone, knowing that you have someone that, He's like my friend, He's always be with me and will never leave me alone. To be the grace I received from him is enough for me to, all the challenges I had in my life, and if I knew that was just going to come to this, I think I would have embraced them with all my heart.
Are you searching for purpose of life? Discover your true identity. Stay tuned to Shalom World.